What's going on, everyday people? I'm Chadeveryday, and today I'm going to teach you guys this really cool effect you can do to impress your friends and your followers on your Instagram. So I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I know I am, aside from the fact my computer's still not started up. I'm having some crazy audio issues, so if everything sounds weird in the audio, I apologize. I'm trying to troubleshoot that as best as possible. But today what we're going to learn is this really cool little orbital time-lapse effect. So it's a relatively easy concept. You only need a couple of things. The way this works is you got to think in the terms of frame rates. Although we are taking photographs, we're going to make those photos turn into a video. Very similar to the way that stop motion works. So for my video, I knew I wanted at least 2 seconds. However, Instagram requires you to upload at least 3 seconds for a video. So knowing this, I had to have at least 3 seconds. That would be either 3 locations or 3 models or whatever. So what I did was photograph my girlfriend Megan against a white wall, and then I also photographed her against a brick wall. Then I realized that was only going to account for 2 seconds, so I had to have her go around and actually photograph me as well, so that way we could get that 3 seconds. I knew that I was going to make this in a 24 frames per second piece, so that I knew that I had to get 24 shots of my girlfriend, and she had to get 24 shots of me while we were standing against that wall. The way you want to do this is in a very wide semicircle, going around your subject and trying to make each shot as even as possible. The rule of thumb that I was going by was to take up to 11 shots before I got to straight on in front of her, and straight on in front of her, and then the same and vice versa for her shooting me was to be the 12th shot. And then I knew I had to get 11 more between that straight on to the next wall. I chose to start on her left side and work my way around to the right, and then I also made sure to shoot that same direction for all the next few shots, so everything was as seamless and consecutive as possible. You want to really lock in that first shot right on the center of someone's face, and then you want to set that over into manual mode and make sure you've got a really in focus sharp manual photograph. Now what you're going to do is, once you get into manual mode, is get that center point inside of your camera fixated right on the person's face, and then try to keep it on that point as you rotate all the way around. Once you get done with your 24 shots, move to the next location. I recommend something very contrasty. You'll notice in my video we started with a white wall and ended up on a brown brick wall, so that's a really nice contrast clash to move. That's pretty much all you have to do as far as taking the photos. I did shoot all the photos in vertical because you want to get that vertical crop for the Instagram photos and videos, because it fits better in the story, it fits better in the feed. It's just an overall better thing to do. Now for the rest of this tutorial, I'm going to have to hop into the computer as soon as this thing decides to start up, and I'll teach you guys the rest of this as long as this audio situation doesn't mess up. Okay, so once you get all your images into Final Cut, you're going to see something like this. So it doesn't just put the images in at one frame like what we need, so what we're going to have to do is edit these down a little bit. Now there might be a better method to do this. This is just how I did it. It was very painstaking and long, but overall it was very easy. So when you get your images in here, what you want to do is go to the very start of this, where your playhead is, and you'll notice this by this little arrow pointing here in the left-hand corner. So once you get to that point, you just want to hit your right arrow key over one time, and that's going to set you at 1 frame. So we're going to go ahead and hit Command B to delete the rest of this, and then delete that out. And then you just want to do this 24 more times to get that 1 second of video. And you can see as I go through this kind of how everything works in retrospective. So let's go all the way back to the very beginning, and here we are at our very first clip. So now as I hit my arrow keys over one time, that's a second image, the third, the 4th, 5th, and finally the 12th image. So you can see the 12th image is actually straight dead center with my subject, and then that means 11 more images have to make the frame the rest of the way around until we get back to this one. Then your second frame, the same thing again and again and again. Now when you first edit this, it might look a little bit wonky, and let me show you what I mean by that. So if you watch my section here versus Megan's section, my section's kind of a little bit jumpy, and you can see this here. Now, a lot of that has to do with the actual framing of the subject. Remember that I mentioned that when you're going around and doing these shots of your subject, you want somewhere for the camera to be at a level focus point. So right here, it would be right on my face. But the problem is, you got to keep that same height distance as well, and the same kind of structure of the camera. You can see here, just in these two clips, that the camera wasn't perfectly centered and looking straight on. But again, it's no big deal, but it really helps to get that thing as center as possible, because if you look in these, it's almost like a completely smooth transition. Now, I will admit, it wasn't this smooth to begin with. I actually had to do something to make this a little bit smoother. And what I did was go into Photoshop and create some, a little cross here so that I could just drag and drop that on top of my clips. Now, what I did was go to each individual clip, go to the transform tool here, and I just kind of move these clips around, or these particular images, until the face was dead center in each of these crosshairs. So we'll go on over to the next one, and then, move it around. Now, I already have done this, so it's a lot more structured than what it was to start with. But just know that you might have to do that also, especially if, there's a lot of changes in your camera movement and everything. And one thing that I did fail to mention, be sure to shoot in vertical if you're doing this for Instagram, and here's why. Because when you export a video for Instagram and you want the highest resolution possible, you want to export the project as follows. We will go into our modify settings here, and we're actually going to change our video format here to custom, and we're going to make this a 1080 by 1350. Now, that's the proportion size for Instagram videos. So now you can see that my vertical photographs here fit perfectly in these proportions. And because we're sticking either edited or raw photo files straight in here, they're going to be a lot bigger than this workspace, because the photos are going to be bigger than 1080 by 1350. So that gives you a lot more room to work with when you're moving these things around. Now, like I said, I've already exported these images, so I don't have as much space to work with. Before, there's so much more coming down this way and so much more going up this way that I had the room to be able to move these images around and really make them fit. And relatively though, that's pretty much all you got to do. Now, as my way to help you guys out today, I'm actually going to leave a link in the description box below where you could download this free PNG I made. It's super simple. I mean, you can make your own, but if you want to download that to use to help you make your videos, feel free to do that. But guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope this intrigued you, and definitely if you do this, tag me on Instagram at Chadeveryday. I would love to see your videos and what you've created using this particular process. But if you like today's video, go ahead and leave today's video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, be sure to create something new today.